Fáilte hiag chlá armánach fiche fiche na tarlína, is mise Ciarán McGear agus tásúlagam go mbunaí sibh sult as an chláir seo. We now have one of Fermanagh's famous sons, Adrian Dunbar, reciting a poem about Fermanagh.
Fermanagh is the paradise of Fola, a tranquil, fruitful plain, land of bright, dry, fertile fields, formed like havens of paradise. The murmuring of her waters is heavenly melody. Her soil bears golden blossom. The sweetness of her rivers is a vision of sweet honey. The tresses of her wood, turning them back. Gentle valleys beyond arable plains, blue streams above the valleys, overhanging the flowers is a yellow knotted forest covered with golden foliage. Enough to take sickness from a man with the brownness of her branches, the blue of her waters, the ruddiness of her foliage, the gloomlessness of her clouds. Heavenly is her soil and sky. Like to the melodies of paradise around the tender, blue springed country is the murmuring of her pure sand-bedded streams, mingling with the angelic voice of her bird flocks. No tongue, in short, can tell half her delight, land of shallow streams and clustering succulent crops. What is it but the very paradise of Ireland? Welcome to the 50th Fermanagh Fleadh. We are delighted you can join us in this online celebration of our rich musical tradition and heritage. The musicians, singers and volunteers of Fermanagh Cultus welcome you naturally to Fleadhfest.
That was three musicians hailing from Rosslea: Pat McCabe on piano, Fran McMahon on accordion and Gary Lynch on fiddle, playing two tunes from a Rosslea composer called James McMahon, A Glass of Beer and The Banshee. Our next piece is Tommy McDermott recalling the formation of the Rosslea branch of Comhaltas Ceoltar Éireann in 1954. He's joined by Kieran Kelly and Paul McDermott as they take a trip down memory lane. Shiwar Maha. We're in the hall in Derrygannon here, and I'm joined with Tommy McDermott, Paul McDermott, and Kieran Kelly, who led us in with that music. You're very welcome to this piece that we're doing, sort of on the history of the Comhaltas in Rosslea. And this, of course, is for the Fermanagh Fleadh, which is taking place in Rosslea. And Tommy, if I can come to you first. This isn't the first time that a Fleadh took place in Rosslea.
Oh no, there were at least 7 or 8 Fleadhs in Rosslea.
Yeah, and when would how far would we go back to the first one?
That's a good question. It'd probably be around the 70s.
In the 70s, yeah. Of course, the branch in Rosslea goes back a bit further than that. It was 1954.
1954, the branch started, and it was commenced by Sean McAloon, the piper, James Patrick Rooney, the fiddle player, and myself. We were the first committee in 1954. And the man that probably gave us the sport to get it started was Eamon Murray from Tidavnet. He was a teacher over in Tidavnet, and he played the pipes, and he was a good singer too. And Sean McKenna from Monaghan Town was a teacher in Tidavnet too, and he came with Eamon, and was Sean that took the photograph of 54, but it didn't go into the Argus until 55.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it was 54 when it started, and it went for about 3 or 4 years, I suppose. Then I got married to my wife Aggie Mulligan from Lisnaskea, and may she rest, she passed away just a year ago. And Sean McAloon, he was he was up to Dublin, and then he went to America, and James Patrick Rooney went to Belfast. So it meant that the 3 officials were gone, and it went a bit dormant for a few years. But there was always music, like there was the Gaelic Club always had concerts, and it was mainly Irish stuff, you know. And of course there was always a dance in Rosslea Hall every Sunday night. I played the fiddle there myself, and that went on for a good while. But unfortunately, in '53, I got my hand smashed in a spinel moulder in Kelly Brothers in Monaghan, and that was very sore blow. Packy Kelly came over to me, and the blood was running out of my hand, and he says, what happened? And I just said that, what I said to him, holy God, I'll never be able to play the fiddle again. Yeah. That was the first thing come to me. Yeah. It was a hard blow now, but yeah. However, took up the singing for a while and managed all right, but I've been a Comhaltas member ever since, and still a member of Rosslea branch, but had a hand in starting the Lisnaskea branch too. And the music was always in our family. My grandfather, whose photograph's on the wall over here, played in this hall for 17 years running a one-man band.
Yeah.
Robert McDermott, he was a character and fiddle player and whistle player and singer. He could do anything, and he done it for 17 years. He came from Banna down beside Pettico, and he met his wife on Loch Derg. He used to row the boats over to Loch Derg, and he met her on Loch Derg. He was helping them round the beds, and she slipped and fell, and he went to help her up, and that's how they met.
Romance on Lochderg.
If only for Loch Derg, I wouldn't be here.
Was romance even allowed in Lochderg?
I didn't expect that one, but there you are. Well, I was just going to say, like Paul, you grew up in a house where Coltus was very big, so no doubt you were listening to these stories and hearing about who was involved. And
All the time, but sometimes there when you're a child, you know, and there'd be a bit of music going on, when the time would come, you'd be put to bed and you were trying to stay up and that, but you heard the whole crack going on, but unfortunately, I can't sing. My father, an All-Ireland champion, is probably one of the biggest regrets I have, that I can't sing, but I was fortunate enough to play in a marching band, and I've got 2 All-Ireland medals for that, like, so I played the drums in it, so I was happy enough that way.
To be part of it, just?
Well, you know, again, that was the All-Ireland flag 1984 in Kilkenny. We won the Junior All-Ireland marching bands, and we done that well. We were a really strong band, and we got a lot of commendations and that, so we went senior the very next year in 85. We went to Listowel in County Kerry and won it again, like, so it was a great achievement. St. Cecilia's Youth Band, Liston Ski.
It was called?
Yeah, it was formed by a father, Patrick Marn, who was originally from Castleblaney, but he was a curate in Liston Ski at the time, and our teacher was a man, John Connery, from Armagh, who passed away sadly there a couple of years ago, but he was a great teacher. He was an accordion player, and but it was a good achievement, and that was sort of, as my father said, like, our family's been steeped in the tradition of singing and music all down through the years, like, so it was nice to be fit to win them couple of medals. And now my son Tommy, he's also taken it up. He plays the concertina.
Down the generations then.
There's 3 Tommies now. My uncle Tommy, me, and
young Tommy.
Paul's son.
Yeah.
3 Tommies.
The administration at those times, Tommy, I suppose Sonny handled the right bit of that there, between attending meetings and representing the branch.
Yeah, Sonny would have been an official from the early 60s until he died.
Yeah, continuous service.
Just like a month ago. And he gave great service for a man that could never play anything, didn't play and didn't sing. He may try to whistle an odd time, but that was about it. But he was marvellous. The amount of work that he done for Cultus was unbelievable.
You nearly find that when someone doesn't do it, they're more dedicated to the advancement of the branch and the actual organisation when someone can't do it, because if you're a musician, you're always playing music.
That's right.
Sonny was brilliant at that, and there wasn't a thing in Cultus but he knew.
Yeah.
You know, as regards the rules and insurance and all that, and there's they come from all over to Sonny to find out if they were starting a branch or if things were. He was the mastermind behind it, and he knew it all, and from early on he was a Cultus member, an Ardcolia member for over 20 years. Yeah. And he drove around the country everywhere he went to Cork to a funeral of a Cultus person.
Everybody knew.
Everyone
It
knew.
was terribly well known.
I'll tell you a wee quick funny story about one girl who obviously didn't know. Sonny, in latter years, he wasn't very mobile. He was a big man, as you know, and he was sort of a travelator, like, to get about. But he went to a barrel house, I think it was down about Finton, or somewhere in Tyrone anyway. And it was one of these sort of wee rare places where they were ferrying the people in and out on the bus, you know, because it was a long lane down to the house. But again, Sonny couldn't really get on the bus, so he went down the lane in the RAV4. And he pulled up at the very front door of the house, and he was preparing to get out and get his wee trolley out. You see, and this wee girl come out, and she says, sorry, sir, she said, you can't leave your car there, you're going to have to move, you know. And he says to me, she bitten I know who Sonny was. he took our defence.
She must be one of the very few. I remember I was at a wedding one time, just happened to be at this wedding, and someone come up to talk to me. He says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Manor. Where are you from? I said, Rushleigh. He says, now, only person I know from Rushleigh is Sonny McDermott. I said, well, I have never been at a wedding where someone hasn't known Sonny, you know, so it goes those two ways. Yeah. But, Tommy, see, in those early times when Flaws were happening in All Ireland Flaws was in Clonus, Rushleigh had a lot of success. Oh
yes, Rushleigh had done well now in the early years. John Lynch won, I think, 4 or 5 trophies at the 64 Flaw. Pat McCabe won at the 64 flower in Clonus. I came second in the 64 flower.
That was in the singing?
In the singing, yeah. And the following year I went on then to Sourless and came first then. That was 65.
That's 65, yeah. And that was all within 10 years of the branch being set up as well.
That's right, yeah.
It's phenomenal success in such a short space of time, really. Like, it just goes to show you the talent that was in the area. Well, Paul, you have a recitation for us. You were saying the singing's out.
Singing's out, well, if it's singing now, it'd be great. But I try to do a bit of a...
You have a story to tell us.
A few stories, but I've been a big fan of the late great Eamon Kelly, the Shawnee, you know, and we've heard of one Kelly here today, so I'll give you maybe a gist of another Kelly from Kerry. If you ever went the road to Killarney, you couldn't miss Peg the Damsel's new house. It was the other side of the level crossing, and you couldn't miss that either, for any time I ever went that way, one gate was open and the other gate was shut. They were always half expecting a train. Well, now, Peg's house was done up to the veins of niceties with dormer windows out on the roof and variegated ridge tiles, and in the front she had ridges of flowers surrounded by a hedge, beautifully clipped, you may say. A barber couldn't do it nicer. But one knob of the hedge was allowed to grow up taller than the rest, trained to give the effect of a woman sitting playing the concertina. Peg herself, of course, for she was a dinger on the box. 'Tis if you ever heard her playing the verse of Vienna, you'd never again want to turn on the wireless. How's does she had it now? Feather welches, top coat, and he wore it, and he tore it, and he spoiled his top coat. Harold-ding-dee-day-da, 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 Harold-ding-dee-day-na. She was brilliant. Is it any wonder that any woman before she could talk could go up to the high note in Danny Bay? Well, it so happened that there was this farmer living at the back of Peg the Damsel's, and he had a goat running with the cows. And a very destructive animal he was too. And this day, the goat, he came into the garden and he saw Peg's posies and he sampled them and he made short work of them. So Peg, she complained the goat to the farmer. She said, "Sure, what do you want him for?" She said, "with 9 cows, sure you can't be short of milk." "Oh, it isn't that at all," said the farmer. "Goats are said to be lucky. And what's more, they'll eat the injurious herb, and the cows will go there full time if you follow me." And you wouldn't need to be chairman of Macra and a farmer to know that. "You'll be doing full time," says Peg to the farmer, "if that goat don't conduct himself. For I'll have you up in front of the judge, the man in the white wig." "Oh, play tough now," says the farmer. "A man afraid of his life of litigation, for can light in the pocket, you know." He says, "I have a donkey chain here," he says, "which I'll shorten to make a fetters for the goat," which he did. But the goat was like the lads in the 3-legged race. Once he found the timing of the chain, he could move as quick with it as without it. Well, now, it was around that time that Peg, she married the return Yank, or was it? God, you know, it is so long ago now. Everything's gone away back in my poll. 'Twas a man that went in a fright for fancy shirts, and they do. One day's all he keep the shirt on him. Would you look at done for a caper? And the poor woman's fingers worn to the bones washing for him. Well, this day anyway, Peg, she wrenched out her red shirt and she hung it out in the hedge to dry, no fault, until the goat came the way. And handicapped and all as he was, he broke into the garden, attracted by the colour, I suppose. And Peg, she opened the front door just in time to see the white button of the left cuff of the red shirt disappearing down the goat's throttle. Well, there was no use in calling the Yank. He was upstairs in Blanket Street. All night work he had in New York, and he used to sleep during the day. And as he had no night work here, he used to sleep night and day. Well, Peg, she got the broom and she ran up on, she gave chase, and the goat, he ran up on the hedge of the railway and he ran down the incline. And as he was crossing the tracks, now it wouldn't happen again in the reign of cats, but one link of the chain slipped down over the square-headed bolt that's pinning the rail chair to the sleeper. And he was held there a prisoner. He couldn't lead nor drive. And what's worse, there was a train coming. He could hear it whistling. And wasn't that a nice pucker for a goat to be in? And if he were there, you'd lose your head. And so would I. But the goat didn't. What did he do? He coughed up the red shirt and he flagged down the train.
Very good. Eamon Kelly, you got that from?
The Shawnee, he was the man, he used to wear a hat, you know, and a
Yeah.
waistcoat and that there. I've samples of his, you know, bits of
Yeah.
Irish too in and out there. But I thought he was a great man to tell a story. And
Yeah.
he'd always be seen in front of the hearth fire here and people around him. And the guy would kill you in houses when there's no
Yeah.
TV or no electric.
I don't know how you can change from a Kerry accent to a Lisnaskea one so easily. Well, thanks very much, Tommy, for sharing the stuff with us today, and Paul and Kieran. You know, it's great to have this stuff recorded. And as I say, we don't record it for now. We record it for the generations in 30 years' time and in 40 years' time when Roslea's up at 100 years on the go, you know.
It's been a privilege to be here and to take part in this recording at 88 years of age, and it's wonderful, and I'm delighted to have been part of the beginning of the branch and to be still here at 88 years of age. I'm very thankful. And now I was born and reared on the banks of the lovely River Finn, and I'll try and sing the wee song about the lovely River Finn. Well, I was born in the year of 8 in the townland of Ballyho, where underneath that old stone bridge the River Finn does flow from College Land down through Rosslea, passing Clonus on its way to Wattle Bridge, where it joins the Erne that flows on to the sea. When I was young, I went to school in a place they called Clonrye. 'Twas a dwelling place of gentry in days long, long gone by. There were 40 scholars on the roll, they kicked up quite a din. They were reared in homes convenient to the lovely River Finn. Our teacher was a Master Martin, a kind old soul was he. His assistant was a local girl, a Miss McCaffrey. At the stroke of 10 we'd lift our pens, our lessons to begin. Back home at 4 we would roam the shore of the lovely River Finn. Oh, how I love to fish for trout along those mossy shores. But those boyhood days are all gone by, and they'll ne'er come back no more. And how I used to trawl for pike and watch the spoon bait spin. When the wind was west, sure the sport was best round the lovely River Finn. Ah, but now I'm old and getting grey, and all age men must die. in that green graveyard by the Connan shore. Let my old bones gently lie, and up above with the one I love, a new life I'll begin, and never more will I roam the shore of the lovely river Finn.
Our next performer is someone who needs no introduction. She has toured as well as recording CDs and playing on radio and TV. This is Rosie Stewart singing Erin the Green.
Draw near, each young lover, lend ear to my ditty, that hears my sad mournful tale. Come join me in concert, you lend to me your pity, whilst I my misfortune bewail. The grief of my poor heart no tongue can disclose. My cheeks are now pale that once bloomed like the rose. And it's all for a young man who, I do suppose, is now far from sweet Erin the Green. When we were children, we walked out together along the green meadows so sweet. Although we were childish, we loved one another whilst plucking the wild berries sweet. It was in sweet Arby we both went to school. He was first in his class and correct in each rule. And I cheerfully walked home through sweet Kilmacrew with the flower of sweet Erin the Green. His head on my bosom, he used to repose it each evening all under a shade. And a song in my praises my darling composed it, and styled me the Kildare maid. The night I denied him my long for his sake, it was little I thought my denial he'd take. But to my misfortune I made a mistake, and he left me in Erin the Green. 'Twas little I thought that my darling would leave me, no matter what I'd say or do. For he often told me he ne'er would deceive me, but would always prove loyal and true. Now I need not blame him for breaking these laws, for to my misfortune I myself was the cause. And his truth and his loyalty will gain him applause when he's far from sweet Erin the Green. So come all you young maids of this dear Irish nation, I pray you be steady and wise, and likewise give ear to my sad dissertation, and never your true love despise. For such foolish folly distracted I rave, there's no place for me but the cold silent grave. And since all hopes denied me, I'll now take my leave of the flower of sweet Erin green.
Some reels now. First of all, we have the Cathcart family from Canolly, followed by the O'Donnell family from Rusley. The three of them on fiddle playing a set of reels. This segment will be Brian McManus from Kinawley as he recounts the history of the Fermanagh Mummers from Auchnakelly-Mad.
Hello everybody, my name is Brian McManus and I'm chairman of the local community association, namely Auchnakelly-Mad, and also very much part of that community group is the Mummers. And I'm sure many of you have heard about Mummers, maybe many of you haven't, but they're a strange group of people who dress up in straw costume outfits and go around the countryside entertaining the community and around Christmas time. But we have gone beyond that a wee bit, whereby we have really gone on the big screen as such. We have been visiting various countries, various European countries such as Bulgaria, and we've been to the United States and different places with this whole scene of mumming. And mumming again is a very old tradition which goes back to, I suppose, pagan times. And we do this for, I suppose nowadays, just to entertain people, not again alone in the family homes, but mainly now in theatres and street parties and things like that. We would do a lot of entertaining at weddings and that type of thing. And I suppose when we talk about weddings, the mummers were very much part of the wedding scene in days gone by, when the bride and groom returned from their honeymoon. The mummers would be there to welcome them home and create a bit of a scene there. It's very much, I suppose, a kind of, there's a lot of things go on within the mumming, mainly music, dancing and song, and a bit of a play as well. Now the play is very much part of it. It's whereby there is life, death and rebirth, and I suppose that's where the pagan thing came into it. Now we wouldn't be very much into the pagan end of it. I don't think that's a big one for us nowadays. And we started back in 1988 to revive that old tradition, and mainly to help to raise funds for the school, the old community centre, which we just bought. And that was a great success for us. We had a great lot of interest in that. We actually ended up with two groups in our community. One went north and the other went south, with about 20 people in each. And we visited towns and cities and all the rest. So it developed from there. So we're going all of those years, 33 years I think it is. And as I said earlier, we have been to many places throughout the world. We have had entertained many people. We entertained the President of Ireland, the American ambassador, and various people like that. So it's been very entertaining, and it's again, we're really wanting to keep that tradition going. And it's not as easy nowadays, I suppose. People have different ways of entertaining themselves, but we're still going, and indeed at the moment we're beginning to grow more corn to make straw hats and straw costumes. So that's very much part of it as well. Could I also say that our centre is very much involved in traditional music, song and dance, and that's very important to us. We have a great love for the love of traditional, anything traditional indeed, but certainly music is very much part of it. We have a monthly music session where many locals, and indeed not too local, comes along and we have a great session of music there. A bit of dancing and a bit of singing and all of that, which is very important to us. We would be part of the Dailin Cultus group, and we would be very supportive of that. And again, that group will use the building here at Auchnakelly-Mad for their music sessions and things like that. The area itself, the Auchnakelly-Mad area, is been renowned and noted for producing many great musicians down the years. And we had family names like, for example, Guns and the McManuses and Murphys. All those people were involved in some way with music. And indeed, many of you would have known at this stage where the great Mama's Boys, great traditional music as well as rock music and all of that. Those family have attended this old school here at Ahakillimod, and of course history has it they have gone far and wide with their music. So we're very lucky to have people like that, and again very proud of our traditional music scene in this part of the world. So that's a wee brief history about Acklamad and Mummers and so on. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much.
How you all doing? We're the Tumblin' Paddies, and we're delighted to be here today for the online FLA. Unfortunately, there's no FLA this year or last year, but hopefully now, and whenever we get this vaccine out, we'll be back out doing what we do best and doing what we love. We're involved in Comhaltas from we started off with music. Kieran and me are Derry Lynn Branch and Martin Batha and John Lisnaski, and it's great to be involved with Comhaltas, and only for that we probably wouldn't have been a band, so that's how we got to know each other. But today we're going to play a jig and 2 reels for you. Hope you enjoy it.
Now we have the song Lovely Fermanagh, sung by Damien McKenna of Derry Lynn. This was written by John McManus, also of Derry Lynn.
Good people all on you I call, while a song I'll sing to you. It was written with a loving hand, and each word was fond and true. It's all about Fermanagh, and the first thing I must do is take you to the hanging rock near the village of Balcoo. There's lovely Devonish Islands with its tower so tall and grand, the lovely lapping water and the stretch of deep brown sand. The lovely hills of Knocknindy have a beauty rich and rare, where as a child I roam for miles without worry or in care. When strangers visit our county, sure the first thing that they see is our world's famous pottery, with its china that's unique. For those who are familiar, there is no need to speak. For when you mention pottery, you can only mean Balleek. Of all our wondrous beauty spots, I can only mention some. And one of these must surely be the castle down at Crum. There's lovely Enniskillen, and likewise dear Lisnaskea. And when you visit Fermanagh, all these places you can see. Now if you come along with me, very proudly we will march the winding roads through Florence Court to the lovely Marble Arch. And it can be our pleasure too, for to view all this and more. For when you visit Fermanagh and Loch Erin's lovely shore.
Fermanagh has a tradition with a fine number of accordion players. Our next segment has 4 of the best, with accompaniment from Jerry McMahon from Mersley. We have Gary Curley from Bow, Kieran Kelly from Donagh, Kevin Loughlin from Balleek, and John McCann from Coe. Two jigs in sin played by Pat McManus from Derry Lynn, Winnie Hayes and the Banks of Lochgowna. Now we have Niamh Boyle with some traditional Irish lilting.
Dum di do, dum to the end, do gat to the dum to the end, gat to the dum to the dum to the dum di do, we got dum to the dum di do, dum to the end, do gat to the dum to the end, I got to the dum to the dum to the dum di do, we got do, I got to the dum to the dum to the dum to the end, do, I got to the dum to the dum di do, we got to do, I got to the dum to the the dum di do die, we have to do the dum dum the dum di do die, we have dum the dum di do dum the di do dum the dum the I got the dum the dum di do die, we have dum the dum di do, we have the do dum the dum the I got the dum the dum di do die, we have the I got
We now have Sean McAleer from Irvinstown, son of Brenda McAleer, nee McCann. He was a 2019 All-Ireland champion whistler. Anish, more from our 2019 All-Ireland Fleadh winners. Seaneen Maguire on piano accordion, Ryan Maguire on drums, Blaheen Manley on the guitar and Erin Whiteley on their concertina. They come to you from the Marble Arch Caves, one of Fermanagh's finest attractions. Now we have Jim McGrath on accordion, Father Seamus Quinn on fiddle, Francie Rasdale on tin whistle, and they're joined by Gaby McArdle on concertina on vocals as they play Bonnie Wee Charlie and Maho Schnapps.
I'm Charlie McNeil, a Lake London wheel. The lassies astonish me fairly. Wherever I go, they're shouting it low, saying, here comes Bunny Wee Charlie. They're wrinkling me clothes, trampling me toes, every one of them trying to kiss me, and one of them went in for poison she sent, all because she happened to miss me. Oh, the lassies that tickle and tease me, ock-a-doodle and squeeze me, and they give me a cheer, and they call me their dear, and they say I'm the Bunny Wee Charlie. Last night after dark, I went out for a lark, 'cause I thought it was only me duty, but the girls that I met, sure I never forget, oh, but one they struck on me beauty. But when they drew near, I was shaken with fear. There was one called Molly McCusker, and after kissing me in the kisser, you see, sure she bit off the half of me whisker. Oh, the lassies that tickle and tease me, ock-a-doodle and squeeze me, and they give me a cheer, and they call me their dear, and they say I'm the Bunny Wee Charlie. Last night at the ball, I went into the hall, and they asked me to join in the Lancer. Some boys give a roar, throw your feet through the door, if you want to be one of them dancers. Well, the lassies, you see, they were dancing with me, and the boys checked up against Shindy, and they broke up the ball, emptied the hall, and they threw me out right through the windy. The lassies that tickle and tease me, ock-a-doodle and squeeze me, and they give me a cheer, and they call me their dear, and they say I'm the Bunny Wee Charlie.
A song now from Lily Caney of the Bleak Branch called The Loch Earn Shore.
One morning as I went a fowling, bright free birds adoring the plain, it was down by the shades of Loch Earn I met with this wonderful dame. Her voice was so sweet and so pleasing, these beautiful notes she did sing, and the innocent fowl of the forest their love unto her they did bring. It being the first time I met her, my heart did leap with surprise. For I thought that she could be no mortal, but an angel that fell from the sky. Her hair it resembled gold tresses, her skin was as white as the snow, and her cheeks were as red as the roses that bloom along Lough Erin's shore. When I found that my love was eloping, these words unto her I did say, "Oh, take me to your habitation, for Cupid has led me astray. Forever I'll keep the commandments, for they say that it is the best plan. Young maids who do yield to men's pleasures, the scriptures do say they are wrong. So Mary, don't accuse me of weakness, for treachery I do disown. I'll make you a lady of honour, if with me this night you come home. Oh, had I the lamp of great Aladdin, his rings and his genie and more, I would part with it all for to win you, and to live along Lough Erin's shore. Oh, the fame of this fair maid is notorious, her beauty descends from above, all clothed like a goddess of splendour, and fanned by the fragrance of love. I wish I were able to please her, her beauty I've not seen before. So Mary got married to Willie, and they lived along Lough Erin's shore.
My name is Maggie Maguire. I'm from Derrygonley in County Fermanagh, and I am the leader of the Knockmore Céilí Band. I grew up in a house filled with love for Irish traditional music. We grew up with our grandfather, who was called Sonny Maguire, who dabbled a bit on the button accordion, and his wife Maggie was a button accordion player and a singer. We learned music in St Patrick's Primary School in Derrygonley from Seamus Sweeney. He came to Derrygonley on a Wednesday night, and myself, my brother Christopher and Lorena went to lessons every week. Later on in life we went down to Ballyshannon to continue our music lessons with him. We were very lucky as a family to have each other, Christopher on the box and Lorena on the flute, to play together, perform and play for anybody who came into the house. The love for Céilí Band music came from playing in Keeley bands as a youngster with Seamus Sweeney, and then later on in life with Brendan McCann. There's a lot of young people playing Irish traditional music, so it was a fun thing to do. At that time there was great reports about the Pride of Erin Keeley band. They were a local band from County Fermanagh under the direction of Sean Nugent, who was from Lack. They won the All-Ireland in 1983 and 85, and from that we had the drive and inspiration to follow in their footsteps. The Knockmore formed in 2008, and what was happening at that time, there was a group of youngsters just playing loads of tunes together, going to Flas, going to Milltown Malbay, wherever they could go to hit the road to play a few tunes. And from that, we formed the Knockmore Keeley Band. The name of the Keeley Band comes from the mountain we live beside called the Knockmore. This area and its surroundings is filled with Irish traditional music and song. When we started competing, it was very much about having fun and playing with our friends. But in 2013, we came very close and we tied for first place with the Roscommon band, the Moyler Keeley Band. This really spurred us on, and in 2014 we headed to Sligo with the ambition to hopefully come back with the All-Ireland title, and that is what we did. It was very important to us to play tunes that was related to our area, so we played many compositions of Sean Nugent's and Seamus Sweeney, and this was a celebration of traditional Irish music in our area. It was amazing for us to win the All-Ireland, as it was bringing back something to the people who had followed us over the years, right from the days when we played Kerry Polka to the County Flas, to the Ulster Flas, to the All-Irelands. And those people were the people who stuck with us, and it was a celebration for them as much for us.
Binnog of Maggie Maguire and Shin with the Knockmore Keeley Band. We now have Brenda McCann on fiddle, Annette Owens on accordion and our own Jerry McMahon on guitar as they play 3 tunes, The Maid on the Green, Richard Dwyer's and Paddy Fahey's. A piece from the archives now. Here is the Irvinstown Group of Ceol playing at a Fleadh Ceol na hÉireann.
From County Fermanagh, the Irvinstown Group of Ceol at Fleadh Ceol na hÉireann 2016.
now have a song from the singer and composer Julianne McCaffrey.
There's a path across the ocean, there's a track across the sea. There are green sunny lands in some foreign country. I left my native Irish home and sailed across the sea. But when weary I'll return to my own country. Why did I leave my home, or why did I cross the deep? Or why did I leave the lands where my forefathers sleep? I sigh for air and shore as I gaze across the sea. Will I ever get a glance, lovely Erin, of thee? I hear no Sabbath bell to awake the Sunday morn, nor I hear no reaper singing among the yellow corn, but I hear the tyrant's voice and the wail of slavery. And I hear the linnet singing in my own country. Why did I leave my home, or why did I cross the deep? Or why did I leave the lands where my forefathers sleep? I sigh for air and shore as I gaze across the sea. Will I ever get a glance, lovely Erin, of thee? There's a sigh for every woe, there's a balm for every pain. Still my heart is nearly broken sore till I return again to my own dear native Irish home, where I was bred and born. Then I'll hear the linnet singing among the yellow corn. Why did I leave my home, or why did I cross the deep? Or why did I leave the lands where my forefathers sleep? I sigh for air and shore as I gaze across the sea. Will I ever get a glance, lovely Erin, of thee?
We now have a piece played by the late Connie Leonard from her own CD. Connie is the daughter of Denny Leonard, both of them great traditional teachers. This slow air is called the Limerick Lament. This song will be performed by Rose Connolly of the Newtown Butler branch. Rose hails from a long line of fine traditional singers, including her father and grandmother.
Hello everybody, how are you getting on? Hope you're enjoying this lovely virtual FLA that we're having this year. I know you're all mad to get back at the FLA, but sure look, this'll do for now. And I know we're going to have a great old hurley all together next year in 2022. God. But yeah, no, I hope you're enjoying yourselves anyway. So my name's Rose. Should have started with that. I'm from Newtown Butler in Fermanagh, obviously, and I grew up with the Kioltas probably my whole life, I'd say. My family's always been involved in it, and having a very musical family with my dad being a traditional Irish singer and my sister and his mother and some music on my maternal side as well. Music's always been Irish music's always been a massive part of my musical influence and upbringing. I currently study music at the minute, but it's veering off into whole different influence and genres. But trad has always been in the backbone or the heart and centre of my compositions anyway. So yeah, I've always come back to it, although I've veered off from it as well. But anyway, when I was deciding what to sing or to play, I don't have any instruments. I know you can see a piano there, but it's shite. It sounds like tin. It sounds like tin. It's terrible. I wanted to sing something that I just discovered recently. Actually, it's a Dedanan song that Dolores Keane sings, and oh, Jesus, I fell in love with that song and her voice when I first heard it. I thought it was amazing. So yeah, so this is The Mountain Streams, where the moorcocks crow. Let me get the note, hold on. With my dog and gone through the blooming heather to seek for pastime, I took my way, where I spied a lovely fair maid, and her charms invited me a while to stay. But I said, my dear, you will find that I love you. Tell me your dwelling and your name also. Excuse my name, and you'll find my dwelling near the mountain streams where the moorcocks crow. I said, my dear, if you'll wed a rover, my former ranking I'll leave aside. Here is my hand, and I'll pledge my honour. If you'll prove constant, I'll make you my bride. But if my parents knew that I loved a rover, great afflictions I would undergo. So I'll stay at home for another season near the mountain streams where the moorcocks crow. Farewell, thee darling, for another season. I hope we'll meet again in yon moorland vale. And when we meet, we'll embrace each other. I will pay attention to your lovesick tale. Then it's hand in hand we will join together, and I will take you to yon harbour low, where the linnet sings her note so pleasing near the mountain streams where the moorcocks crow. Sinead and Gurmail Margaret, enjoy the rest of the concert.
Back down memory lane with three men talking about the dances that used to take place on the Fulham deck. Well, John and Jerry and Harry Gurmail, thanks very much for coming to talk to us today about some of your memories of the music and the dancing and the activities you've got up to. But John, for my benefit, the Fulham deck, what sort of time, when would that have been built? Can you remember?
I think it was late 1940s, or early 1950s.
Or was that the first deck that was around at those times?
Flinders deck probably was there before that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably get chatting about that. But Jerry, what was the purpose of a deck, or what was it used for?
Dancing.
It was the dancing, yes.
Dancing,
And I suppose we have to remember that this was for a lot of people to go dancing to.
Anybody that wanted to go, no problem.
And how many would you have got on it?
Aye, that's a good question. It could be 150, I'd say, and maybe 200 if there was
Yeah.
a bit of a special band or a change of music.
And you can remember 200 on the decks, I suppose?
Sure that you could.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be much spare room now when you get out to dance. There'd be a dust rising off the concrete. I said dust off.
I suppose
right up to the knees, the trousers and coat.
You'd have had to dance tidy then. You wouldn't want to be swaying about or.
Oh, well, yeah. There wasn't many dunk men or half dunk men. That wasn't no problem then. Yeah, that time, eh?
Yeah, and it was a concrete deck at those times.
Concrete, just something like that. There couldn't be a shiny of that.
Yeah.
Oh, concrete certainly. And bits of forms around the side of it, you know, maybe planks of wood sitting on.
Yeah.
And a bit of a shelter there, you done nearly like a bush shelter there.
Yeah.
Or you do a right wide deck, the width of the deck make to you.
Yeah.
About the width of this, you know. The back and top would be covered now. The front would be all open, you know. I say the front would be open.
Yeah.
And up about that height of the ground.
Off the ground.
Yeah. A bit of a stage, you know.
And what was the surface like, Harry?
Well, it was smooth. You know, there's a wet night you had a little bit of a problem with it.
That was the problem for you. The floor wasn't too slippy or what. You had no dust.
Yeah, no dust that night, yes. But it was all right for dancing on.
Oh, nice, sure.
Yeah.
You could dance the best.
Dance the best on it.
Yeah, sure you could. Yeah.
What was at those times? What was the dance? Was it Cayley dancing, or was there been a mixture?
No, it was not Cayley dancing there. St. John Anderson, a few of them all are Irish dances. You wouldn't certainly, but mostly waltzes and
quick steps.
Quick steps.
Foxtrots.
Maybe no foxtrot now with them.
Yeah.
But that was it. Barn dance. It was a common enough one.
Yeah.
A fling. The fling.
The fling, yeah.
And what was a fling? What differentiated a fling from a from a quick
I
step.
went to my seat. You done a bit of an action in between, you know, and then stopped and you took 2 or 3 steps this way and they had done the same backward and then maybe put it around, you know. I nearly forgot it. It was going to be honest.
Different moves in it.
That's
Well, the timing would be a little different in the fling than in the waltz thing.
Timing and the fling and the barn dance, sorry, was nearly, you could dance there.
That's right.
Tail of them
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But the fling or the barn dance was the same time as the music, you know.
Was the big thing for the deck to come in? Because I presume, you know, you were talking about, but was there nothing before that there, or?
No, there was no dance of any, no place of anywhere at all around there to dance. Slate Hall would be the nearest and
Bala?
well, yes, about the school.
Yeah.
Come in around that time too.
And your barn loft.
Your barn loft before that again.
In the houses?
There was a big barn loft at Jerry's home place.
Years ago, that was even going back before the deck. I say before the time of the deck.
And we were, it was outside, so there was no lights. How did they light it?
Tilly lamp.
There was a few tilly lamps there, but you see, it started maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock, and because
Still bright.
and you didn't want much
Yeah.
light. One maybe 11 o'clock or 10:30 or 11 o'clock before we'd be starting to get dark, you know. So that was the light, you know.
Yeah.
That was it. But
What and when would the decks have started to? When did people start to move on to other entertainment as well as the deck? You know, when did the deck start to decline? Because in the 40s and 50s, I presume they were at the top of their popularity. Yeah. The carnivals we used to hear.
the
That's
carnivals come in, we'd say around the mid 50s there, you know. They were getting right coming, so they had partly done away with that.
Yeah.
The deck, you know, you'd only have the 2 locals on the deck with them. And there was a time the people was getting cars, you know, common people, you get a car and then your neighbour would have one and the way to all when they
go
go
a
to
bit
it.
further away.
Go further away,
yeah.
not only a bicycle on it. You know, that's what done the harm to the decks too, you know.
Yeah.
But a man from our country went to the recreation hall one night at Christmas time. And he got a girl just from McGuire's Bridge.
Surely.
And he told the boys that was with him, he says, you should tell Owl fella if you see him tomorrow, I'll not be home till tomorrow night.
What, John?
You can tell Owl fella when you go home, he says, I'll not be back till tomorrow night.
Oh,
He was making bastards of the recreation hall.
Harry, you were saying you went to Canada around 52?
Yeah, 1952.
I presume they hadn't dance halls at those. Had they the traditional music at that time over there, or was
Oh
it?
yeah. Well, they had what they call fiddle clubs, and what you did was you just go. If you played in fiddle or guitar, banjo, whatever, you signed your name when you went in, and when your turn would come up, you'd get up on the stage. And you'd play your two tunes, and you'd get lots of backing, maybe somebody on the piano, somebody on the piano.
Sure.
And then the rest, the singers would be out dancing. So it was great, and you socialised, and you met a lot of the senior people like yourself, or younger people.
Yeah.
But they also had the different clubs, different counties had their own clubs in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like Fermanagh had one. On St. Patrick's Day, they'd have a parade on Yonge Street, just the one of the longest street, and different Toronto, Fermanagh, Monaghan have theirs, and so forth.
Yeah.
And they'd have dances.
And that was for the expats, I suppose.
Sorry?
That was for the Irish over there.
Oh yeah. And
yeah.
in the streets in Yonge Street, it'd be just lined with people.
Yeah.
And myself and Gruz. They're originally from Graholia. We play on the float. We play music on the float, all the whole way through.
Yeah.
And it was good fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
But,
I tell you, something that I wanted to take back on. You had mentioned the war, the Second World War, John, and we're talking about a time that's slightly after the World War. There had to be implications because there's going to be people who had lost people at war. Like, did that make any difference to the dances? Was there ever anything that would have been talked about, or was it something that did it have any influence on it, or did the people just say nothing and move on?
But I remember there used to be local football matches. There'd be between two townlands. There was one between Currahee and Knocknagrass. I had two brothers. Tommy would play for Currahee. Jimmy would play for Knocknagrass because they had customers from both sides, you know. But I remember matches was played on the Captain's Hill. That's John McGuire's. John the Captain.
John the Captain.
You own that now.
John McGuire.
John McGuire. But I remember when he was only 6 or 7 year old went over to a match. All the locals were going, there was all the talk, you see. And I remember at half time of the match going down to being sent to a well for a drink for the boys.
Ah.
And I remember there was a porringer on a tin, what do you call it? Well, the boys to drink out of the jug.
Sweetie can, John.
Sweetie can, that's right. But when we come back, the players, the whole 30 of them, or maybe 40 of them, it was passed around everyone. And I remember them sitting at half time. The match would go on maybe there was no half hours each way. It would go on maybe for 2 hours each way. The players would play away. And I remember cigarettes being scarce at the time. And one fella had a cigarette and he passed it to you and you passed it right down. Got a pull.
Yeah.
And we were satisfied. I remember them talking of the war. About the war. There was a fella called Tommy Lakin from Aristella. He was killed in the war. And there was a Crumley fella killed in the war.
Yeah, Tommy Crumley.
Tommy Crumley. I remember
the
talking about
Big
them.
brother.
And then there was a first cousin of my own. He worked in England, in Bedford, and they had to join up. And they were sent to some islands that the British owned, and the island was overrun, and he was a prisoner of the Japs till the war was over. And he came home, and he was, I think, about 14 or 15 stone going away, and he came home about 6 or 7 stone he could put his own teeth.
There you go.
And he went back to Bedford, where he had worked at first, and he was recluse. And
affected him?
Oh,
yeah. That was the 3 people who talked about during the, at the war, the boys were talking to the war.
Yeah.
The tales like that, John, I said
That is right. Then Tommy Lake, the son of Tommy Lake.
Oh, that's right.
I suppose
Crumley fella.
the like of the decks and the music, that was just people's outlet, and
that was it.
You didn't have to worry about big things like that there because you had this.
Yeah.
You had this, and it was enough to keep your mind occupied. And Harry and Jerry, and thanks very much for sharing your memories and telling us about that there. And you know, it's fascinating stuff. So thanks very much.
I must recite a poem for you. This is Kitty Cadden, before we go now.
Yeah.
Kitty Cadden, you remember her, John?
Yeah, I remember.
Anyways, she was great. She could have poems and sing and all that. But we sit you down to hear the sound of the hammer's measured beat. McMahon Estate, where these men do play it, and the waters gently flow. The curlew throughout the sky has sorrows to enlarge, and the setting sun made the rabbits run neath the groves of Anahard.
Very good. McMahon's made.
Yeah, McMahon Spitman.
Miss Spitman, sure. Yeah. I made it well go.
Now we have the Manley family playing a set from the Roslay branch. This is followed by our final piece, a virtual recording of our Fermanagh young musicians. It would be remiss of us not to mention two stalwarts who would have been very heavily involved in this production, the late Sonny McDermott and Mickey McPhillips. Ar yesh J go ro ar ananyam na hadjilish.